Alright guys, welcome back. Well, we're going to be getting started on taking apart the front end of the Nova today. The green Nova. There is no front end on the blue Nova. We're going to start taking apart the front end stuff. We're going to try and take apart everything in a way so we can take it out as complete as possible. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully everything comes out in one shot and I don't have to dismantle everything, because we're going to try and put the blue car back together as cheap as possible, which would entail reusing most of this stuff. Front suspension's out. Now, I just wanted to quick go over what we did, because for whatever reason, the footage came out terrible. A lot of it, we'll cut to some of the clips. You can't really see what's going on. So let me explain what we did. All right, so while this is out and on the bench, let me explain what we did here. I separated everything on both sides from taking out the castle nut from the upper ball joint and separating it that way. That way I could leave the entire lower control arm and spindle and steering arm all together as a single unit. What I did was I knocked the tie rod end out. I loosened up the castle nut here, and then I hammered and split the upper ball joint, but left the castle nut on so that it would catch the upper ball joint. Then at this point I put a jack underneath and used the jack to safely lower the lower control arm without allowing the spring to shoot out. Oh, the other thing too is before we did that, the shocks, now these can suck, but luckily what I was able to do is get an impact gun up top and blast this thing counterclockwise. It actually caused the shock to come apart in the body of the shock. It's threaded in there, which allowed me to unbolt the shock from the bottom of the lower control arm and take it out, which helped from keeping everything from binding all up. Then what I did once I got that out, because what happens is these top shock bolts, they just spin. So once I had everything out, I just took a Sawzall and just lopped off the top bolt, because let's be honest, these are garbage and we're not reusing them. They're just crap. So let me show you what it looks like underneath here. So everything is super gross and oily and dirty. I also discovered, check that out. That's the back side of the lower control arm on the driver's side. I don't know what happened to this thing. So you can see that somebody's welded a washer to the back of the subframe cross member there. But on the other side, they left all that bare metal there. So there's just a hole, big gaping hole. So once we get all this cleaned up, we're gonna try and do some weld repairing on that. I don't know if the bolt came loose and it started to wear into the, I don't even know how you get there. I don't know how that happens. If you've ever seen that before, tell me how that happens or why. The rest of this looks good. It's just really gross. So we're gonna try and clean some of this up before we start installing all the new Q.A.1 and Wilwood stuff. We're also gonna order all new steering stuff because these are kind of gross. So yeah, we'll probably a couple nights a week try and get down here and start cleaning up on this front end so that we can at least get this sprayed with some sort of chassis paint and start installing the new stuff. Once we get the new stuff on this, we can get this car down and on the ground and moved, and then probably start working on that one. This one will just be in limbo waiting on new engine, and we're gonna start building the trans for this very shortly. So let's start to clean. Okay, Bossy Pants.
Mommy already called ya.
I didn't hear.
Are you coming up for dinner?
Yeah. Am I dirty?
Not that dirty. A little.
That's good.
I've seen worse.
What? What?
Daniel, just let her have some bullets. She was filling up the thing.
today we're going to try and get that spot where the lower control arm bolts up that had the big hole in it. We're going to try and get that filled up with some weld and ground flush. So yeah, let's get to working on that. Alright, well it's not perfect, but it's way better. It's better than the big hole, so at least it's got some reinforcement now. And we hit it from both sides, so at least it's got something to rest on rather than the big gaping hole that was there. So, I feel better about it. One more thing that's really important before you go ahead and start spraying all this stuff is one thing that you never see on TV when it comes to control arms, especially on these GM subframes, is when you go to fit this up and put this in here, it doesn't fit. It's not even really close. You're way off. So, the way to fix that's pretty simple. You just got to make yourself a little tool. Maybe they make something to do this the right way, maybe they don't. So all I've got is some threaded rod that I've cut to the desired length, and I've got 4 nuts that I welded together. Just thread these guys on here. Now I've got this rod cut perfect to size here to fit right in between that gap. But you get these guys on here, and what would have made this maybe a little bit better too is if I just welded the washers to the back of the nut. Probably would have helped. But we're going to put these in between those mounting points and just open them. And it's going to force that gap to increase. And then our lower control arm will bolt right in. We want to make sure that that gap is right now so that we're not smashing all this in here and tearing up all our new paint. And there you go. Fits like a glove. The trick is to not just go crazy, but just make sure, do a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other side, and test fit once or twice and make sure you got it right. So at least now we know on both sides that the lower control arm is gonna slide in there. The trick to that special, this custom tool that I made working is to use these metric adjustable wrenches. They're the best ones. All right, guys, it's Friday now. We've spent all week working on this car. We've got everything wire wheeled, which I wouldn't wish this on anybody because this job sucks. I just scuffed everything up with a 320 grit sandpaper. I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use the air compressor to just blow everything off and make sure that any of the heavy dust and stuff that we have on here comes off. Then probably go around and do a quick alcohol wipe. Start taping everything off that we don't want overspray on. Now, everything underneath the car is cleaned, wire wheeled, and hopefully degreased so that we can get some chassis paint on here. The top of the cross members and stuff up here, none of that's cleaned because it'll be easier to clean that when the engine's out, and we're not pulling the engine yet, so that stuff's just gonna have to hold on. That's all part of the reason why I went with the type of paint that I went with. I'll show you what we're gonna be spraying with once we get to that, but for now, let's keep making sure that we got this clean so that we can start painting. So, somehow we don't have masking tape. I usually do. Maybe we used it all when we did the undercoat. Yeah, we used a lot of masking tape. So we got some masking tape, and it came to $50. And I ain't lying. Look at that. This stuff is so expensive that it should practically install itself, I hope. When did it sneak up like that? Well, that's good enough. Don't want to put too much tape on there. Blow right through that budget. Alright, we got this thing all masked off. As ready as we're going to be to spray it. Hold on, let me show you underneath too. Oh yeah. Spent more time protecting on that undercoating. The undercoating's so nice I didn't want to get overspray all over it. The drivetrain stuff that's hanging under here right now, we don't really care if any of that gets overspray on it because all this is coming out anyway, so what difference is it making? Quite honestly, there's so much oil on all this stuff that paint's probably not going to stick to it anyway. Frame's ready to go, or as ready as it's going to get anyway. It is December, so I've got that little propane heater kind of taking the chill out of the air in here. My garage is insulated, that door is insulated, so it's not really that, it's not that cold in here. It does say that for the paint that it should be at least 55 degrees, so we're trying to get it to somewhere around the 60 degree mark. So we're going to be using VHT roll bar and chassis paint, and the reason we're using this, for one, is it's in an aerosol can, which was a huge plus for me. We don't have to hook anything up to the compressor. We don't have to have a paint gun, rattle can, which is going to be great for the way that we're doing this. Subframe's connected to the car, so this job, it's going to be good. Like, I spent a lot of time getting this prepped, so it's going to be good, but it's not going to be perfect. This isn't, you know, a restoration here. So the great thing about these cans is they're cheap, and you can always keep backups. So if we have to touch up on some of this later on, it'll take 3 seconds. Scuff, psh, 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 shoot, we're done. That's why I went with this. Now, this has like a high temperature and stuff like that, so anything we mount to this that's gonna get hot and whatnot is all gonna be fine. I think we're ready to get spraying. Turn that heater off because it's cooking me. Let's do it! Paint's on. Went on nice. I lightly coated it, and then I came back, and after like 10 minutes of it getting, you know, the light coat sitting on there, I came back. So by the time I had done like a light coat on this side of the car and went over and did the light coat on that side of the car, I came back and did like the, you know, the heavier coat on this side, and then went and did the heavy coat on that side. Well, the paint's been on here for a day now, and boy, does it look good. When it went on really, really glossy. But when it dries like a flat, like more of a flat base color than a gloss black. I mean, it says satin on the can, but this thing dried looks amazing. And like I was saying before, the reason why we went with the aerosol can type of application is because there's a lot of stuff that's still going to have to be bolted on and unbolted, and a lot of abuse that this subframe is still going to see. So with an aerosol type paint, at least on this, it's going to be easy for us to be able just to scuff and touch up areas that need to be touched up later on, especially since we still have to take an engine out of this thing. Super happy with the way that this came out. Would highly recommend, whether you're doing this in the car or out of the car would be very preferable. Just so that you guys know, all my videos have links in the description for all the products used, the parts used. So make sure that if you like any of this stuff or are thinking about using it on your own project or looking to get prices or any of that stuff, I've got links to everything in the description, so check that out. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned because we've got all new front steering and suspension ready to go on this bad boy. We'll see you next time.